Jellybeans. I have a problem with one of the most foundational features in the entire game of Toontown. Toontown's currency of Jellybeans, if you want to even call it a currency. As soon as you get into the main game of Toontown, you're directed to the trolley as a way to get Jellybeans and gags. And I mean directed.
You better get on that trolley, son!
At the very core of the game, Jellybeans are a really critical thing to have, as it's the only way you can get gags right off the bat. And while we're on the subject of its importance, it's actually quite a multifaceted tool of sorts in Toontown. Use Jellybeans to buy gags, clothing or estate items, doodles, use it to fish, gardening, parties, racing— oh, no. Racing is special apparently. You gotta grind for those tickets. But Jellybeans on the surface, it seems like a good thing, right? In my opinion, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it's great that something so obtainable is so widely used and utilized that it really opens up the possibility of doing so many activities in the game. But here's the problem. At the same time, while you can use them to customize your toon, or estate, or get gags, they have no real value. There's seemingly an infinite amount of Jellybeans. Between trolley game payouts, fishing payouts, unites, parties, just for fun tasks and special events, there's more than ample opportunity to absolutely fill your piggy bank. It gets to the point that you don't even necessarily have to try very hard to ultimately fill it all the way up. An astonishingly high number of people resort to sitting around in Donald's Dreamland in the most populated district in an ambition to have Jellybeans just tossed to them like they're a bunch of lazy fat ducks just getting obese off of chunks of bread being hurled at them.
Take it! Leave me alone!
And if they don't get their way, very much like the angry ducks that get obese, they start attacking. Or jumping a lot and trying their best to sound mean in Speed Chat Plus. Listen folks, we've got to come together to stop feeding these fat ducks, okay? This tyranny has gone on for too long. Wait, right, I was talking about Jellybeans. Right, so with hundreds of Jellybeans being obtainable through a few trolley game trips or even just a single bucket of fishing, it's not that hard to get a lot of Jellybeans quickly. It wouldn't even necessarily be a problem if things were balanced out to make it feel somewhat equivalent to the payouts of things, but even that wasn't taken into much consideration. Gags originally had cost their level in Jellybeans, but they removed that back in Toontown Online's beta due to negative feedback. However, I do believe that at that point, trolley payouts were much lower and different at that point, and fishing wasn't even in the game as an option. Every single gag costs 1 Jellybean. A singular cupcake and an entire grand piano cost you the same exact thing. 1 Jellybean.
You probably should have bought that long before you seen, but heck, it was only 1 Jellybean.
Even a Mega Snoop understands the ridiculous cost-benefit of single Jellybean gag prices across the board. Imagine playing any other game and finding out that the beginning weapon, or attack, let's say in this case one of those miniature diner butter knives you get at breakfast, costs you the exact same as the very last 7-foot-long sword you'll ever get in that game. In fact, you find that all of them in between would also cost you the exact same. Doesn't there seem like there's something foundationally wrong there? To put it bluntly, if you had the maximum of 80 gags you could have in Toontown Online and you needed to restock all 80, it would cost you about 30% of a very achievable payout of just 1 fishing bucket trip. Not only does every gag cost the same, but it is unbelievably cheap to buy as much as you would like and not have any worry. Now, I'm not trying to advocate for a grind, that's not what I want for Toontown, but I feel there would potentially be more merit in making the spending of Jellybeans actually feel like something. I want Toontown to take spending Jellybeans from a— what was that? To a— well, spending actually kind of feels like I'm buying something. I want any single one of you that have played Toontown for a notable amount of time to think about this. Outside of the first few sessions where you're just starting off in the game, have you ever really felt any confliction about the spending of your Jellybeans? The only time it really happens is when you go on a spree and buy literally as much accessories or animations or whatever you would like. So you mean to tell me that 1 grand piano is a single Jellybean, but if I want some jolly boots, it's gonna cost me 3,000 Jellybeans. In fact, a giant pipe organ will cost you 2,500 Jellybeans. Something's not right here. It got to the point where you can tell Toontown knows that it's got an abundance of jelly beans because it makes everything new that you want really pricey so that it actually feels like spending jelly beans in that case is a decision you actually have to weigh. Almost 5,000 jelly beans for the only useful doodles, 10,000 jelly beans on a crown accessory, multiple thousands per shoes and backpacks, multiple thousands to throw a 30-minute party, and in Toontown Rewritten's case, 10,000 per toon rewrite or name rewrite. All of these are potentially elusive features that you would love to get, but those all stop you or make you really weigh the decision because they're actually pricey. But that's not even what really bothers me here. What actually makes you think and makes these things pricey is not the price tag, but the fact that the game arbitrarily limits you. At some point, you were able to buy and upgrade your piggy banks to a 10,000 jellybean cap, but eventually they just decided to give you all permanent 12,000 jellybean banks. We all know that if there wasn't a hard cap on jellybeans, we'd all be rolling in potentially hundreds of thousands of them, and probably to the extent that buying a toon rewrite or a plastic crown every once in a while is the equivalent to basically, I don't know, hitting your elbow on something every once in a while. You might think, oh, that kind of sucks, it kind of hurt a little bit, I guess, but it doesn't really bother you at all. And let's not even talk about the limitations of the cap. Look at my estate. Each piano organ, as I have mentioned, had cost 2,500 jellybeans.
No, that's a lot of
Pipe organs. While we're at it, can we also talk about the lore behind jellybeans? You spend them to buy gags, lure fish in, exchange them for clothing, but you can also plant them to grow gags, and you can also plant them to grow statues? Are jellybeans a seed? Well, that answers that. My final statement is this: jellybeans ideally should be constructed to give them a sense of value, as they are a currency, right? Whether that means modifying the payouts in certain areas and the costs of items in places, something probably needed to have been figured out. In my mind, the most ideal solution would have been to create a format where toons could exchange jellybeans rather freely to allow the players to ultimately create their own value for jellybeans. Whether just for clothing, rewards, maybe new collectible items of some sort, racing parts, or just the ability to transfer them at a certain cost. Whatever it is, it would have the potential to ultimately create some form of a Toontown economy. But that kind of work goes deep, and who knows if that's the kind of thing we'll see, let alone see the community have interest in. But that was just something bouncing around in my mind. Let me know your thoughts and arguments against this, because I would like to see the arguments for both sides and kind of debate it a bit. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time in my next video. A big thank you to Chris, the Bin Weevils developer, Broadway Pixels, Infinitinity, Saeed, and Samuel B for supporting me so much this last month on my Patreon. You guys always go out of your way to support me, and it leaves me constantly feeling like I don't deserve it. Thank you guys so much for what you do, I really appreciate it.